secular society, let me tell you something. That Constitution is sacred. And you know, when this country was founded, and our founders came together, and they drafted Jefferson drafted a declaration, and then they started out over a period of years drafting that Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Not a small matter. That's so important. How many here in this room just have, since 9/11, you've seen the changes that have taken place in America, have at one moment or another said to yourself or some other person, I can't believe this is happening in America?
Oh, good Lord.
No question. Well, look at this now. Look at each other. See, we're all thinking the same thing about this, okay? We're losing our liberties here. This Patriot Act. Not only talking about restoring the Constitution, but I'll send the Justice Department immediately in the federal court to strike down the Patriot Act as being unconstitutional. Government should not have the ability to go into people's reading lists, shouldn't have the ability to do that. Government shouldn't be tapping people's phones. Look, if you have some information that says that somebody's planning something, you can get a federal warrant like that. But it's judicial overview. Why do you have that? It's a check and balance. When a government has the ability to just go in and tap anybody's phone for any reason, it's a police state, folks.
Yes, indeed.
And I don't buy it. It's like, no, that's not what I signed up for. And so, thanks for your question, but that's why I feel that that the chief, not only Mr. Cheney, but Mr. Bush has to be held accountable as well. Next question.
Piece of paper.
Yes.
Well, Rod said when you get voted in and take the oath, how are you going to get voted in? I just think they've been in charge of the voting system for so long and so corrupt.
How many of you are concerned about the corruption in the election process?
Oh, please. Everybody.
Okay. Okay. Check, please. Come on. Look, in Ohio,
That's right.
2004 election, I voted against I was one of the few people, I'm the only one running for president, that I voted against certification of the election in the Electoral College because I saw the way that Ohio was manipulated by our then Secretary of State. That they did not provide enough voting machines in areas which were certain to go Democrat, and provide an abundance of voting machines in areas which were certain to go Republican. That's one way of tampering with the results of the election. There were other things that happened too. Now, I have a bill into the House to have paper ballots in all federal elections. So you have a paper trail, literally. Now, you know, some people say, well, that'll slow down the count. Like, you know, we didn't wait a month in 2000 to get a count, right? And then we saw what happened. The Supreme Court made the decision. Look, this question that the lady asked is one of the most frequently asked questions all over this country. People are really concerned about the integrity of the election process. So, I don't like these Diebold machines at all. I don't think they should be used. Some states don't allow it. They should not be used. We cannot guarantee that technology is full, that somebody couldn't hack into the machines. And so if we have doubts about the integrity of the election process, if we have doubts about every vote being counted and every vote counts, then we have to look at the system. Now, in some cases, most cases, this is state-by-state decision, except when it comes to federal elections. Congress could order that on federal elections, they'd all be paper ballots. That's what I think should happen now. I don't think there's a guarantee us the integrity of the election process if it's all done by these electronic voting machines. I don't like it. And the reason why, by the way, I started in politics 40 years ago as a candidate for city council in Cleveland. And when I started, they were still doing paper ballots in a lot of the precincts. Now, granted, any kind of election, you can always have somebody messing with the process. We understand that. But when you're talking about electronic technology, you can steal an election in a way that is global, literally, instead of just trying to hack away at a precinct by precinct. That's why it's really a dangerous situation, and Americans are very justly concerned about it, and I'm concerned about it.
Let's all just get out in the streets and yell yay or nay.
Well, you know what though? Let me just say this: one way that we take care of that is to have such a massive turnout of people that it's just indisputable about the results of the election. America's been so closely divided. And I think one of the reasons America's been so closely divided is that as we get closer to elections, it becomes harder and harder to tell the difference between Democrats and Republicans. Hello? You know, you have a Democratic version of the war and a Republican version of the war, a Democratic version of a for-profit healthcare system and a Republican version of a for-profit healthcare system. Well, I don't have that problem. I know what I stand for. So, yes.
Keeping in mind the recent New York Times article and the Blackwater scandal about
Yes.
enhanced interrogation techniques, how do you feel about the CIA able to use techniques like sleep deprivation and waterboarding?
Okay, the question relates to torture. Now, you heard President Bush.
We don't.
Torture. You believe your president, don't you?
Oh, please.
You don't. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? Of course there's torture that's taking place. And all of those techniques are in violation of international law, period. How did we get there? Think about that. How did we get to the point where supporting torture became the American way? You know, who did that? See, this administration made decisions. This administration made decisions that were based on an architecture of lies. And then they told us, well, this is the only way we could get information. Look, when you start torturing someone, he'll tell you whatever it is you want to hear.
Right. Yes, exactly.
And then they call that intelligence. Somehow the word intelligence and this administration doesn't really. And so what we've seen is an undermining of basic civil liberties. Because we have to, if we really believe in our Constitution, then the rights that would apply to people here would apply to people who we come into contact with, because this is what we believe in. So what would I do? All torture ends. Not only that, but I'll go a couple of steps further. Okay? We have to show that we really value life, and that means, as president, I'll take steps to stop capital punishment, at least at a federal level. We have to. People commit crimes, they should be held accountable. If somebody commits a capital crime, you know what? If they're guilty, they should be in jail for the rest of their lives. But I don't think the state, if it really wants to show that it respects life, should not be in a position of taking a life. And we're seeing more and more, with changes in forensic science, that people who are convicted of crimes turn out to be not guilty. It makes you wonder how many people are in graveyards around this country who were executed for crimes they didn't commit. It really is kind of scary when you think about it. So we have to reclaim our democracy. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, next question. Yes, sir.
Trillions was taken from somebody else.
Trillions.
Trillions? Well, money was spent. What I'm asking is, what is the war?
The war will cost
Trillions.
Yeah, trillions, absolutely.
Yeah. The question I've got is, are you worried you can make some comments about state and church? It seems to me that the church has a lot of influence in the state.
Let's talk about church and state.
By the way, this Prince is one of the top religion people there is.
Let's talk about church and state. Our founders, people came to the country so that they weren't locked into a system that Henry VIII founded of church and state being unitary. We believed in separation of church and state. People came to America to escape religious persecution from many different countries. So there was a kind of freedom here. But we want freedom not only of religion, but freedom from religion. So what does that mean? The founders, I believe, wanted not only church and state to be separate, but they also created kind of a paradox. Separation of church and state on one hand, but spiritual values that are implicit in our founding documents on the other hand. Read the Declaration of Independence. It is not only a secular document. There are spiritual principles based in that declaration. All are created equal, endowed by a creator with certain inalienable rights. That's a spiritual principle if I ever heard one. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. speaking of nature's God.